Imagine this for a second. You're standing in a city, and it feels, geographically North American. The streets are wide, they're on a grid, the electrical outlets work with your stuff,
Hmm.
and the winter is so brutally, bone-chillingly cold that you're questioning every life choice you've ever made.
Wait, that part is definitely North American.
But then you walk into a bakery, or you just watch people interacting in a park, or
Yeah.
you look at your childcare bill, and suddenly you feel like you're in Europe.
It's a place where that childcare costs about the same as a couple of fancy lattes, maybe $9 a day.
Mm-hmm.
But then you look at your income tax deduction, you might physically weep.
We are talking, of course, about Quebec. And here's the thing. If you're just looking at a map of Canada and thinking, oh, I'll move to Montreal, I like bagels and old architecture, you're missing like 90% of the picture.
That is the danger. People treat it like it's just Canada with a French accent, and it's really not. It's a distinct society. It has its own legal system, its own tax code, its own immigration rules. It just operates on a totally different frequency than, say, Toronto or Vancouver.
So today, we're doing a proper deep dive. We're stripping away all the tourist brochure stuff, and we're going to look at the hard realities of actually settling in La Belle Province.
And we're working from the 2026 Guide by Dara Immigration Services. It's incredibly detailed, especially on the legal, economic, and the cultural friction points.
And our goal here is to help you answer one big question. Is the Quebec trade-off actually worth it for you? Is all that cheap rent and joie de vivre worth the headache of a two-tier bureaucracy and a language barrier that is becoming, well, legally mandatory?
Let's start with that bureaucracy, the legal stuff, because the guide kicks off with a warning that's practically in, bold red letters.
Which is?
You do not simply move to Canada if you choose Quebec.
No, you don't. And this is the first thing that really trips people up. If you want to move to, say, Ontario or BC, you apply to the federal government of Canada. Simple enough.
But Quebec has this unique deal with Ottawa. They have total autonomy, complete control over their economic immigration.
So, practically speaking, what does that mean? Do I have to fill out 2 applications?
Effectively, yes. It's a two-step process. Before the federal government, that's IRCC, can even look at your file, you have to be selected by the province first.
Okay.
You have to apply to the Quebec Ministry, it's
Oh.
called MI5, for a special document, the CSQ.
Ah, another acronym for us. CSQ stands for.
It's the Certificat de Sélection de Québec.
Right.
Think of it like a VIP wristband for a club. The federal government is the bouncer at the door, but the CSQ is the wristband. If you don't have that wristband, the bouncer literally cannot let you in. Doesn't matter how qualified you are.
So I have to get the wristband first. Is it hard to get?
It's not just a rubber stamp, no. You enter a portal, it's called ARIMA, and you get scored. And the scoring criteria are totally different from the federal system. They value French language proficiency way higher. They value having a degree in a field that Quebec specifically needs right now.
So you could be a perfect candidate for Toronto.
A perfect candidate for Toronto, but if you don't fit the Quebec rubric, you just won't get that CSQ. And without it, the whole thing is dead in the water.
And this is where the labyrinth part comes in that the guide talks about, because these are 2 massive separate bureaucracies.
And they don't always talk to each other. You might get your CSQ, which is valid for a certain amount of time, and then get stuck in a federal backlog. Or you have a discrepancy in your paperwork, a job code that doesn't perfectly match between the 2 systems.
And I'm guessing that's not a quick phone call to fix?
It's a nightmare. The guide mentions cases where simple little mismatches delayed a person's entire project by 18 months, sometimes 2 years.
Wow, you're just in limbo.
You're in jurisdiction limbo. So if you're planning this, you need to think like a project manager. You're not just filing for a visa. You're coordinating a treaty between 2 governments about your own existence.
Okay, that is suitably terrifying. But let's assume our listener is super organized. They get the CSQ, they get the PR, they land in Montreal, they're excited, they get that first job offer, and then they see their pay stub.
Ah, yes, the famous Quebec sticker shock.
The guide lays this out, and the numbers are they're intense. Income taxes in Quebec are the highest in North America, not just Canada or North America.
It's true. The marginal tax rates kick in very, very quickly. So if you're a high earner, let's say you're making $120,000 a year, you will take home significantly less cash than your counterpart in Toronto. And I mean drastically less than someone in Austin or New York.
And it's not just income tax. You go to buy a laptop or a sandwich, and you get hit again.
With the sales tax, you have the federal GST, that's 5%, and then you have the Quebec QST, which is 9.975%.
So everything costs 15% more than the price tag.
Pretty much, yeah.
So play devil's advocate for me. Why would anyone with options choose this? If I'm losing thousands of dollars a year in just raw cash, why would I stay?
Because you have to look at the other side of the ledger. And this is the whole concept of the social wage.
Meaning what I'm getting back from the state.
Exactly. In a place like Texas or even Ontario, you have a high cash wage. You keep more of your money, but then you have to go out into the private market to buy all your major life services.
Right.
In Quebec, the government takes more of your cash, but then they sort of bulk buy those services for you.
And the big one is childcare.
It's the crown jewel of the whole system.
Yeah.
In Toronto, putting a toddler in daycare is like,
Yeah.
it's like paying a second mortgage. You're looking at $2,000 a month, easily.
Okay, but in Quebec,
It is subsidized down to roughly $9 a day.
that is, I mean, the math on that is just staggering. That's under $200 a month.
Right. So if you have two kids under 5, you are saving $30,000, maybe $40,000 a year on childcare alone compared to living in Toronto. Suddenly, that extra $5,000 you paid in income tax looks like the deal of the century.
It really, really depends on your life stage then.
Completely. If you are single, 25 years old, healthy, making a huge salary in tech, and you never plan to have kids, you are the loser in this equation. You are subsidizing the system.
But if you're a young family,
Or a student, because tuition is incredibly low for residents, or if you have health issues, the system is designed to catch you. It's a collectivist bet versus an individualist one.
that is the perfect way to phrase it. Okay, so we've got the legal maze and the financial trade-off. Now let's talk geography. Because moving to Quebec is vague, the experience is totally different depending on where you land, and the guide breaks it down into 3 main profiles.
Yeah, it's like a choose your fighter screen on a video game. And the difficulty level changes with each one.
All right, let's start with the big one. Montreal, the cosmopolitan metropolis.
This is where most immigrants land first. It's the economic engine. You've got aerospace with Bombardier and Airbus, a massive AI sector with Mila, a huge video game scene with Ubisoft. It's a very sexy, modern economy. And the vibe is, it's just different. It's that joie de vivre they talk about. Montreal feels alive. There are festivals all summer long. The nightlife goes till 3 a.m. The food culture can compete with New York. And relative to the rest of Canada, it is still affordable.
What are we talking for rent?
An average one-bedroom is around $1,700. In Toronto, you're paying $2,600 for a shoebox.
But there is a trap in Montreal. The guide calls it the bilingual illusion.
Yeah, this is so important. You can visit Montreal as a tourist, speak only English, and have a fantastic time. You can order food, you can ask for directions, no problem. So people move there thinking, oh, I don't really need French. That is a massive career-limiting mistake.
Because there's a glass ceiling.
It's made of concrete. The guide is very clear on this. Without French, you will hit a wall. You might be able to work in the back end of a tech company, sure, but you can't manage a team. You can't deal with local clients. You can't participate in the boardroom culture. You'll always be an outsider.
Okay, let's head down the St. Lawrence to option number 2, Quebec City, the historic fortress.
This is a totally different universe. If Montreal is like Brooklyn with a French accent, Quebec City is a fortified European town that got dropped into the Arctic. It is unbelievably safe, very family-oriented, and just beautiful.
And the economy there.
Very stable.
Yeah.
It's the provincial capital, so you have government, insurance, administration. But here is the key statistic. The unemployment rate is often below 3%.
That's practically zero.
It's full employment.
Yeah.
Employers are desperate. The guide says if you have a pulse and a skill, you can get a job.
There's a catch.
A huge one. It is 95% Francophone. In Montreal, you can stumble through your day in English. In Quebec City, you just can't. The person at the hardware store isn't being rude by not speaking English. They probably just don't speak it.
So it's total immersion or nothing.
Absolutely. But if you do make that commitment, the rent is so cheap, $1,200, $1,400 for a nice place. You can actually buy a house. It's a middle-class paradise if you speak the language.
Okay, option 3. The guide calls this one the strategic hack, Gatineau.
This is for the clever ones. Gatineau is right across the river from Ottawa. And Ottawa is in Ontario, and it's the national capital.
So what's the play?
The play is pure arbitrage. You live in Gatineau on the Quebec side. You pay the cheap Quebec rent, $1,400 a month maybe. You get the $9 daycare. You get the cheap electricity. But you commute across the bridge, literally a 10-minute drive to work in Ottawa.
Where the salaries are higher.
Exactly. High-paying federal government jobs, tech jobs in Canada. You earn Ontario wages, but you pay Quebec living costs.
But you still pay Quebec taxes, right?
You do. That's the rule. You pay taxes based on where you sleep on December 31st. So you get hit with a high tax bill, but your cost of living is so much lower that for a lot of people, they still come out way ahead.
That's brilliant. It's like geographic life hacking. Okay, but no matter where you live, we have to talk about the elephant in the room. We've sort of danced around it, but let's just face it. Bill 96 and the new language reality.
Right. This is the most politically charged part of the guide, but we have to look at it pragmatically from a newcomer's perspective.
And the guide's advice is blunt. It says, do not fight it.
That's excellent advice. Bill 96 is the legislation that basically solidified French as the only official language of Quebec. It tightened the rules on everything.
Okay, so give us some concrete examples. How does this actually hit a newcomer day to day?
Okay, government services. It used to be a bit of a gray area. You could often get served in English if you asked nicely. Now there is a 6-month rule.
A 6-month rule?
When you arrive as a newcomer, you have a 6-month grace period where the government will communicate with you in English.
And on day 1 of month 7?
The window closes. Legally, they are required to communicate with you in French. All your permits, your tax forms, healthcare administration, it all switches over.
That puts a serious ticking clock on learning the language.
It does. And it extends to business, too. Contracts have to be in French. Public signs have to be predominantly in French. The message from the government is really clear. You are not in a bilingual province. You are in a francophone nation inside of Canada.
But, and this is the silver lining the guide really highlights, the government isn't just waving a stick at you. They're also offering a pretty big carrot.
A very big one. Francization. This is a unique program where the government offers free French courses to immigrants.
And when you say free?
I mean, they will actually pay you to take some.
Yeah.
If you enroll in full-time French classes, they give you a financial allowance to cover your living expenses and childcare while you study.
That is wild. They are literally paying you to acquire a skill that makes you more employable in their own market.
Exactly, and that is the mindset shift the guide is pushing. If you view French as a burden or an oppression or a tax, you will be miserable in Quebec. You'll just be angry all the time.
But if you view it as a key...
If you view it as a key, then it unlocks everything. And economically, being bilingual is a superpower there. If you're an accountant or an engineer who speaks both English and French fluently, you are a unicorn. The competition for jobs just plummets because you have access to both markets.
So the advice is, take the money, learn the language, and basically double your career options.
Precisely. Embrace the distinct society, don't fight it.
All right, let's get into the survival guide section, because beyond all the heavy legal and cultural stuff, there's some just weird practical quirks about Quebec. Let's start with healthcare.
Right, so Canada has universal health care. It's free at the point of service. But in Quebec, there's a waiting period for newcomers.
So you don't get your health card on day 1?
No. There's often a delay of up to 3 months before your RAM-Q card, that's the health insurance card, is actually active.
So for 90 days, you're basically walking a tightrope without a net.
You are. The guide says private travel insurance for that period is non-negotiable. If you slip on the ice on day 45 and break your wrist and you're not insured, you're getting a bill for thousands and thousands of dollars.
Okay, and speaking of insurance, the drug plan is another weird thing, isn't it?
Yes, this confuses everybody. In Quebec, prescription drug insurance is mandatory. You must have it. If your employer offers a private plan, you have to take it. You can't opt out to save money.
And if you don't have an employer plan...
Then you are legally required to enroll in the public government plan, and you pay a premium for that when you file your taxes at the end of the year. No going without coverage. The system just doesn't allow it.
Now for my favorite bit of Quebec madness, July 1st.
Moving day.
Yeah, in the rest of Canada, July 1st is Canada Day. You have a barbecue, there are fireworks. In Quebec, it is the day the entire province plays musical chairs with their apartments.
It's this bizarre historical accident. Most residential leases in Quebec expire on June 30th. So on July 1st, you have tens of thousands of people all trying to move at the exact same time.
The guide describes it as logistical chaos.
It is. Try to rent a U-Haul in Montreal on July 1st. You can't. People book them 6 months in advance. If you do find one, it's triple the price. You literally see people moving refrigerators on skateboards. It is absolute anarchy.
And there's a legal trap with the leases themselves, too.
Yes. In most places, when a lease ends, you just move out. In Quebec, leases renew automatically for the same term unless you give formal written notice.
Wait, so if I just do nothing, I'm locked in for another year?
Yep. You usually have to give notice 3 to 6 months before the lease is up. If you forget to send that registered letter, then congratulations, you're on the hook for another 12 months of rent.
That is a crucial detail. Do not ghost your landlord in Quebec.
Never.
And finally, we can't talk about survival without talking about the winter. The guide has a climate table, but numbers on a page are abstract. What does -15 Celsius actually mean for daily life?
It means your nose hairs freeze solid the second you step outside. It means you might have to plug your car into an electrical outlet overnight so the battery doesn't die.
The guide calls a good winter coat a mandatory investment.
It's not a fashion statement. You always see newcomers trying to get by with a stylish wool coat and sneakers. They are just miserable. You need insulated boots rated for -30. You need a proper parka. You should budget, honestly, $1,000 just to be able to leave the house in January.
But the flip side of that is, because the winter is so hard, the summer is.
Explosive.
Yeah.
That's why the festival culture is so intense. People feel like they've earned the summer. There's this communal euphoria in June that you just don't get in more temperate climates.
So bringing this all together, we've looked at the two-step immigration, the high taxes versus the cheap services, the language laws, the moving day chaos.
It's a lot. It's a lot to process.
It is. But when you zoom out, what is the final verdict from the guide?
The verdict is that Quebec is offering a very specific value proposition for 2026. It is not trying to be everything to everyone. It knows what it is.
It's a niche product.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
The deal is this. You accept high taxes. You accept a massive bureaucracy. You accept that you absolutely must learn French. In exchange for that, you get a society that is remarkably safe, affordable, culturally rich, and incredibly supportive of families.
It is not a place for, a digital nomad hustler who wants zero taxes.
No. If you want that, go to Dubai or Texas. But if you want a European style of life in North America,
yeah,
this is the only place you're going to get it.
Which brings us to a final thought the guide leaves us with, which I think is really profound. It asks you to redefine the idea of wealth.
I love this point. In most of North America, we define wealth as net worth. It's the number in your bank account. It's the bottom line.
Right. How much cash do I have access to?
But in Quebec, you could argue that wealth is defined by access. Access to a doctor without a bill, access to affordable childcare, access to cheap education, to culture. So if you move there, your bank account might be smaller at the end of the month, but your anxiety might be lower, your kids are taken care of, you aren't one bad accident away from total bankruptcy.
So the question is, would you feel richer because your life is more stable and secure? Or would you feel poorer because you have less direct control over your own money?
That is the Quebec trade-off, and only you can answer that for yourself.
Well, there you have it. A huge thank you to Dara Immigration Services for their incredibly comprehensive guide. We hope this deep dive helped you figure out if your future lies in La Belle Province.
Au revoir, and good luck with the paperwork.
Thanks for listening, everyone.